So the last 7 days, I've seen the most website traffic, the most downloads, the most emails, private messages, contacts from you, friendly listeners, I've ever had at Coast2Coast Pinball. What could be driving all of that, I wonder? I don't know. We'll get into that more. Lots of stuff happening on a busy night here for episode 148 of Coast2Coast Pinball. Let's go. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening, and welcome, friendly listeners, to Coast2Coast Pinball. My name is Nate Shivers. This is a podcast commentary. I am a man in no need of quarters this evening because it's all set on free play here in my home base, San Diego, California. Flying to the East Coast early tomorrow morning, and then Friday, the Texas Pinball Festival starts. Be picking that up as it goes on. And bouncing back and forth with work and play and trying to keep it all straight. So episode 147 came out a week ago, and the crux of that episode was definitely a look at the Predator situation, as you might know. And we'll touch on that more tonight. But I think this is an amazing time in pinball from lots of different angles. I think that what we saw with competitive pinball ramping up to Papa was exciting. We saw great turnout at the Papa World Championships at a different time of year. That was, not the normal time. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the tournaments in Texas go. It's an interesting time for buying and selling games because prices have been fluxing. And it's interesting to watch certain eras and certain titles have gone up and come down, and lots going on with that for sure. Obviously, it's a extraordinary, and think about the word extraordinary. It's extraordinary, so it's past ordinary time for pinball machines being built for you to buy. I think we're in at a crossroads, so to speak. We've had this surge of independent companies pop up and start to build pinball machines, and we've seen chaos ensue in some instances. We've seen a true, really American success story in One Spooky Pinball as I sit here watching the light show of my America's Most Haunted flicker behind me. I think we're about to see the European contingent really make their move. I believe by the time 2015 is over, we will have major players coming out of Europe. And I was probably one of the more skeptical people that I know, at least, looking at the two, I think, who will be major builders out of Europe. Who are obviously Dutch pinball and highway pinball early on, just because I didn't know a lot about them. Building across the Atlantic Ocean, how does he make that work? The scope of it seemed intense, but as we saw with the rise, the fall, and the rise again of the Big Lebowski project, and I think with the sort of steady, almost understated, push forward of highway pinball with their platform of a pinball machine with, I think, a game that maybe not is generating tons and tons of news and noise with Full Throttle. I think we might see a much bigger move and statement with Aliens. So I think that this year will pan out to be very good as far as from European production. But what I want to talk about first is today and yesterday, what I've been seeing on Pinside happening, and we must touch on it.
Forum static.
If you want to see something really cool, get on Pinside and find the Planetary Pinball Supply Forum and go look at some pictures of people unboxing brand new in a box Medieval Madness games in 2015. I mean, it's a big story. When this was announced a year and a half ago, roughly, it blew up. I mean, it blew up. because this was not just a new company stepping into the pinball manufacturing game, but they were bringing us the game that is listed as number 1 on the top 100 on Pinside. It is one of the most high dollar, most sought after titles from the golden era of Bally Williams DMD games. It was Medieval Madness, and there's been a lot of things happen with the project. I think that there's been a lot of maybe just confusion from people on what the project really was. What are we doing here? Planetary Pinball Supply? Rick, is he building machines? No, it's a Chicago gaming company machine. And obviously Rick, being the license holder, was very closely involved, and the spokesperson for the project was way out, in front as the spokesperson for it and in everybody's face. And we saw, the issues with the trim colors and the coin mechs and, the DMD. What kind of DMD is it going to be? Is there going to be a Williams logo on it? Oh my gosh, Stern is building the game. I think that all needs to be swept aside for a little bit, because today I'm seeing owners unboxing brand new Medieval Madnesses in 2015. Built at the Stern Pinball Company. I mean, that's really pretty amazing, pretty cool. It's a pretty cool time, and congratulations to those of you who've been really wanting that game and really looking for it, and those are starting to arrive. And that's going to be a slow turnout. I don't think it's there's not going to be 1,000 games delivered this month, but they're getting there, and there's some videos released, and the game looks really great. Looks like it plays great. It's obviously built differently. It's different for sure. But hats off to Rick and Planetary Pinball Supply, and hats off to Chicago Gaming for getting it done. It's done. It's happening. There is a official shift in the pinball manufacturing world now. I think that we have to sort of hold things to the standard of things shipping, right? In light of recent developments. So, despite all the refakes and the remake talk and whatever, there's a lot of money flowing through the Medieval Madness project, and a lot of cool games are going to be out there now. And it's not just for those people that bought those first, 1,000+ games. Those games are going to be resold through the community. Some of those games are going to be on route for you to play and drop coins in. It's a big deal. It's actually a really big deal. And I've had a lot of emails, when's the next game from them going to be announced? Clearly they're doing another game. And, I thought I knew. I think they thought they knew. I don't really know. So for all those of you who have asked, I've tried to answer by email if I could. That I just don't really know right now, and I don't think we're going to know until the project's much farther along. Because in light of what the flack and the noise that occurred around Medieval Madness being remade, and what we've seen with other projects, and how we've talked about this before on the show, internet speed moves really fast, and real world speed does not keep up. It just isn't as fast as the internet. And things like 100 people can weigh in on coin mechs in an overnight period. In 8 hours, 100 people can be like, oh, I can't believe there's not coin mechs. In real life, that coin mech decision could take 3 or 4 weeks, or it could be solved in 3 or 4 weeks. And sometimes the community, and we're going to talk about the community tonight. Sometimes the community, I think, as a whole, sort of doesn't do itself any favors by moving at such a fever pitch and talking about things so much and so in such black and white terms and so quickly. And I'm getting that. I'm hearing that from listeners to this podcast that, they can't keep up. So I think that we won't have to worry about the next game and the next long cycle if there is another remade Bally Williams title from Chicago Gaming. If they decide to go through all this again, because this was a hard project. We won't know until it's, pretty far along the lines. I mean, obviously things slip out. This is a tiny little hobby, but I think they've pretty much said that it's going to be ready to go by the time we see big announcements. So, let's let this music play out for a second. I'm going to gather my thoughts. All right, so I talked about things being extraordinary, and I think the Medieval Madness shipping story is extraordinarily good and cool and awesome. I love it. The Predator thing is not. It just isn't. I don't even care that it drove more people to this podcast, and a lot of people found me only because of the Predator story. I would have traded that off, because remember, I'm not making money on people downloading this show. I do this for a creative outlet. I do this to contribute to this art form hobby community thing that I really love in pinball. So I would trade all that extra, attention for the Predator thing not to have happened the way it's happened. So when we spoke on 147, I really was just throwing out there that, in my opinion, based on what I had seen, what I was reading, what I knew kind of was going on at the time, that I thought it was going to be pretty tough for Kevin to get this game built at Skip B. I didn't feel there was a license, or I felt at the very, very, very least there was naivety or a misunderstanding or a stretching of the idea of any license there could have been. And I didn't see a way for Predator to be built by Skip B Pinball. And I at the time, I think, said, get out, press the eject button. And I still hold to that 100%. And the thread on Pinside is just impossible to keep up with. And I try. I actually get a little... nervous is not the right word, but I get a little worked up before I do a show sometimes, because I want to make sure I'm up to date on things. So I'm trying to be up to date on the news that people actually care about and are talking about. And that Predator thread is intimidating because it moves so fast, and there's so many things being copied and pasted and quoted, and people quoting without putting quotes, and you don't know what's quoted and what's said, and it's really a mess in that thread. And I've stayed out of it completely. But a few things have sort of come to light. And I believe in some of the emails that have been quoted that have been attributed to Kevin, is that he had said that the project is pretty much dead. And I think we can all realize that's what's happening. He has admitted to people that the license is not what he thought it was. He is still saying to some that there was some sort of license. I don't know where we're at with that. And full disclosure, Kevin can come on this show anytime he wants. And he can have an open floor. I'll be more than fair and let him, tell the listeners of this show, which should filter out to anybody if he wants. That's open floor. So it's not a one-sided conversation. At least it doesn't have to be here. So, but Kevin's sort of been telling people refunds are going to come and he's going to give money back, which I think is the only solution here. It's the only solution. There's clearly issues with Fox. There's clearly been cease and desist letters. I think that's all out there now. We can talk about that. A lot of people are on this, I don't want to say witch hunt because that's not the right term. They're on this quest via messaging on Pinside to get the absolute truth, all the details to come out of exactly what happened on Predator. And I don't know that we're ever going to get that. Now, we might. Kevin may come out and tell us what is actually indeed all the truth. And I still contend that is the best thing for Kevin as a person. Forget the business, forget pinball, just as a person to get the story out there and be honest with yourself first, swallow your pride, and let us hear it in full. But we may not ever get that. We may get a whitewashed version of it. We may get a tinted version of it. We may get nothing. We may just see money start flowing back. I don't know. It could get really ugly. There could be lawsuits. There could be major, major problems here. But there are people really obsessed with knowing the intent of what happened here with Predator. And I'm not sure at this point if I am so concerned with the intent, because we know some things for sure. We know that Kevin and Skip B were attempting to build a pinball machine that at some point, that's a moving date, I don't know that we all know for sure what that point is. At some point they knew they shouldn't be building and selling. Right? I think that's not really up for argument anymore. And that's kind of all I need to know as far as to take an opinion on this. That just tells me that kill it and give the money back. Now, in the Pinball News article that Martin posted on Pinball News, that the group that has become known as now the Anonymous Group had been working with Martin to publish, and then since then the Anonymous Group has put their own WordPress site up with a supplement to Martin's article. Some things stood out in that article that Martin wrote, and one of those is that the delay of the article sort of came from Martin putting Kevin in touch with Andrew Highway at Highway Pinball, which makes perfect sense because Highway Pinball has another Fox license in Aliens to build a machine with, and maybe trying to find a way that Highway Pinball could sort of save the day and build the game. And that was left pretty open-ended in that article. And I can tell you I don't believe that's happening. I did reach out to Andrew Highway, and he did reply that, and I believe, and Andrew, I'm sorry if this wasn't for public consumption, but I believe he's going to stay focused on his projects at this point. They are getting awfully close to building Full Throttle, and it sounded to me like it did not, I'll put it this way, I don't believe they are going to be working on a Predator game. They are not the only company that reached out to me after episode 147. In fact, basically everybody that's in the business right now of building pinball machines, not Stern, but basically everybody else on a smaller level, has reached out to me, if not directly, well, directly, pretty much, and kind of said to me, we're not building that game. So some of these conversations were asked to be off the record, but basically most of the companies, almost all of them, has just said we are not going to build that game. Which you can't. You can't build that game at this point. I don't care who you are. If you're Spooky, who they've publicly said we're not building this game. If you're Jack, Jersey Jack Pinball, who was going to work with the next game. Or if you're Highway, if you're Dutch Pinball, whoever you might be, Stern Pinball included, who on earth would want to touch this project right now? It's just too toxic. It's just too much collateral damage, and it's a mess, right? No reason for anybody to build this game, and one of the problems with Predator from the very beginning. From the very, very beginning, is that, the naivety and the short-sightedness of the business plan reaches out to just every corner of the whole project. From the giant license issue, clearly, to what I believe is just artwork faux pas abounding, whether it's the cabinet artwork that was right off of a DVD cover, or the very stylized playfield artwork that likely would never pass muster with Fox, to, obsessing about this blacklight concept that seemingly slowed down their design at the time. But maybe most importantly, two of the biggest issues that, if you look back on Predator, the game was priced wrong. I don't think they could build the game for that price unless they were hand building the games at that level. But that's a catch-22 because I don't think they could build the games. So those are the two problems. You can't build 250 games in your basement. I'm sorry, you can't do it. Spooky Pinball has put together a small, I don't want to use the word factory exactly, but a small pinball shop with multiple employees, a line, a dedicated space to building pinball machines, and they aren't going to build 250 pinball machines in the first 12 months of their building games. They're just not. It's really hard, and I don't know. Did I first say building pinball machines is hard? Was that me, or did I just eventually take it over? But there was no way Skip B Pinball was going to build these games the way it was set up. It wasn't going to happen. You saw things like, massive amounts of products from Back Alley Amusements ordered and already done. Like, why on earth were those the first things ordered? Just so many things that were so wrong. It is what it is. The games weren't getting built for that, which tied their hands when they, I think, went looking for a build partner because there was no money in it. And I don't think anybody could go back to the people who were invested in this game and say, hey, we can't build your game for the sub 5,000 price we said we could. It's going to need to be 6,500. Let's go. That wasn't going to work after all this time. And obviously now I don't think it matters. But, I still see people talking about somebody picking this thing up and building it. It's just not, that's not possible. The money's not there to build it at that price. And the idea, I've seen people talk about stripping the game of the license and still building the games. I think it would take them a long, long time to build 50 machines, let alone 200 or whatever it ended up being. So, some of the things that have come out with the Predator story that have just been really unfortunate to see are some of the collateral damage. Some of the people who really trusted Kevin and who at times even spoke up and staked their own reputations. We saw, VirtuaPin, who built the cabinets, pop up and say, I wouldn't work on a game without a license. And here he was, unknowingly, working on a game that apparently didn't have a license. And he's had to come on to Pinside now. And I'm sorry I don't have names. I'm fried on all this right now. But the head of VirtuaPin has had to be in that Predator thread, basically apologizing and saying, I didn't know. I was duped. I think the word is duped. And that's major egg on your face. That's a tough one to swallow. When you got on, you got on the internet and said, no, man, stop talking about this. Stop it. I wouldn't do it. I believe his name is Noah. And, he said, speculation can now rest. And then he had to come back and say, hey, I was wrong. I was duped. And that's, really, really rough. I think Spooky Pinball, even being attached to this at all, is like, I'm sure they wish they hadn't been. They were, helping him with plastics and helping him with parts and doing what they do. Playfields and stuff. I'm sure they would like their name nowhere near this. We've seen Fast Pinball, Aaron and his company. Aaron stepped into this at, probably the worst moment possible. And I think he had good intentions trying to reach out to Kevin. Hey, I reached out to Kevin. I had some advice for Kevin. Because at the end of the day, this community is a small, pretty tight-knit little community, despite this thread on Pinside with a few people, arguing endlessly. Most of us just want the best outcome here. And I think all of us tried to be optimistic that there was a solution, and I think that's where Aaron comes from. And I think, it also goes without saying, Fast Pinball would love to see a finished production game using their product. But the timing was really bad. And Aaron's kind of had to, backtrack himself. So there's been all this collateral damage, which is just bound to happen when you're in this little tiny community. Because it's hard to build a pinball machine like we know, but it's hard to do it from the ground up without help from other people in this community. And that's why this one's, I think, taking so many people, not by surprise, but it's dragging so many people deep into this. 117 pages on Pinside when I'm recording this. And people taking it really personally and people just blown away. It's a rough one. And, there's roughly 200 people who have some amount of money that, as of right now, is just hanging out there. And I just implore Kevin to do what he has to do to get money back. And hey, look, there may be a PayPal issue right now, because I'm sure with all the requests for refunds and accusations that are happening to PayPal right now and to credit card companies who are then going to PayPal, I'm sure PayPal's got this thing on heavy duty lockdown, trying to figure out what on earth is happening. So it may not happen overnight. It may take a little bit, but there's got to be a time frame here too. I mean, how long are you going to wait? If you've got $4,700, $4,900, whatever it is, tied up in this thing, and you now have heard the man himself say, this project's basically dead, I'm going to refund money, how long do you wait for that? So I think everyone is definitely anxiously awaiting some sort of message from Skip B saying, here's my timeline, here's my plan. I don't think it does Kevin any good at this point to try and really explain much. I think the better move would be to get all the money back out and then do your story, say your story, say your apologies. If the money's not all there, I mean, that's a tough one. That is a tough one. I would be looking to find some money to pay back to people. So, I mean, I don't have anything groundbreaking or new on Predator. I think that it's unfortunate how petty some people are being in the Pinside thread, and that thread has frustrated me endlessly, and it's going to segue me into sort of another thing I just want to mention and talk about a little bit. That thread, when we weren't hearing any news and when there was sort of a lull in action, had a lot of users who were very, I think, bored, and this thread seemed to be their entertainment. And some of these people, I'm sure, had money in the project, and I understand them being anxious and updating constantly. And we had this sort of like joke ongoing in that thread where it became let's post photos of scantily clad women, or beautiful women, or whatever, or cleavage pics, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And pretty frustrating for me to read that, not because I'm offended by hot girls. I actually really like hot girls, but I also don't like being pulled off topic and being, it's like reading it's the same. It's like if I was reading the sports page and all of a sudden there was stock market info in there. It's not that I don't want stock market info, but I'm reading the sports page. I don't need it there, and I think it's just sort of childish, and maybe accuse me of being too serious, but it makes it not very user-friendly or fun or easy to work with when threads are being hijacked by endless posts of girls in bikinis. I know where to find attractive-looking women on the internet. I don't need it in a thread about a pinball machine and the problems of said pinball machine. I think we can all find the attractive ladies of the internet if we spend a little time looking. So that was disappointing. And then after the firestorm erupted when news broke with the Pinball News and with the anonymous group posting their WordPress page, and even to a degree when I posted episode 147, that seemed to die down. The pictures of the girls thing slowed down, and we had the new pages and pages of argument of, is this a scam? Is it fraud? Well, you know what? Who cares? Like, stop it. If you're really that concerned with it, get a lawyer, and they will tell you if it's officially legally fraud, or they'll tell you if they think it's fraud. Is it a scam? If you really think that Predator was a scam in the sense of a plot to take people's money and never deliver a product, you are foolish. You're short-sighted. You're not paying attention. That's not what it was. If you want to call it a scam in the sense of a licensing issue, if anybody was getting scammed in this, Fox. I mean, Kevin was trying to build a machine and not pay for the intellectual property, right? Claim some sort of fair use, claim some sort of not-for-profit, whatever it was. I mean, so Fox was getting, quote, scammed, and maybe the word is stolen from. Buyers would eventually be caught up in this, quote, scam, if you want to call it a scam, because, those games could have been, taken away from them. That can happen. That is legal. You could have a court order to give up a product that is illegally built on stolen intellectual property. That's real. I've seen it happen in the music industry. So to think that you're somehow off the hook if you got your game, you're not. You could still be out your money and out the machine. But it's not a scam in the sense of a plot designed to take money and not deliver a product. It's just not. But we had pages and pages of arguments back and forth, which was incredibly petty and incredibly kind of dumb, to be quite honest. And some people, I think, just enjoy seeing themselves type the same things over and over again. So that thread has gotten really frustrating. And, that's been indicative of some of the threads on Pinside lately. And I know, in speaking to people who've talked to Robin and other moderators at Pinside, and I know even just talking to Robin a little bit myself, that's an issue on Pinside right now. It's an issue. And stepping away from Predator here for a little bit. Pinside is the largest forum of pinball fanatics, fans, whatever you want to call it. It's the largest website community of pinball on the internet. It's 10:25 p.m. here on Tuesday, March 24th, 2015, where we're coming to you not live from San Diego, California. And there's 291 registered Pinside users online, including myself. There's 113 guests online. So, we're in the 500-person range, right? No, 400-person range. A little over 400 people on Pinside right now. This is a slow time for Pinside. There's nowhere else where you can go and get that many opinions, that much advice, see that many different stories, see photos of different games. It is the number one place on the internet to go discuss, learn about, talk about, and enjoy pinball. And the forum is a big part of that. And if you've been following this thing called the internet for the past 20 years, many times websites that sort of feature a product or become the hub for a product, a hobby, a thing, an event, whatever, the forums tend to be the highest traffic part of websites because it's somewhere you can belong, somewhere you can have a say. So it's not just reading a magazine and putting it down and walking away. You're contributing to the creative content, to the discussion. You're part of it. That's what's so great about the internet. Everyone can have a voice. However, as we've seen at many sites over the years, some people can't handle that. They just can't. You have bad seeds. You have people who just, go out of their way to either draw attention to themselves or to be the counterculture guy, or who just generally are really the standouts in the crowds. Because if you go grab 1,000 random people, there's going to be 2 or 3 people who are just clearly would be, in any situation in the mass general public, would be the outsiders, the standouts. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. As long as you sort of, play nice by society's rules. And that's why we have laws in countries. And we have, sort of standards of society. And I think the internet has to have that too. Even the dark corners of the internet have rules and regulations. Pinside has been very, very neutral and hands-off, sort of in their approach towards regulating the forums. There are some rules, of course. I think, and I would propose this, I think we should stop taking threads off topic. I think that should just be a hard and fast rule. If you take a thread off topic, I think moderators should just delete your post. If you do it twice, throw you out of the thread. Really simple. It would clean the forum up immensely. So what do I mean by that? Well, I mean if we're talking about Predator and all the problems with it, and you decide we should post a photo of Angelina Jolie or Scarlett Johansson or some model who I'm not cool and hip enough to know who that is, in lingerie or out of lingerie, whatever, if you post a photo of a famous person having nothing to do with the game or the subject at hand, it should be deleted. Just get it out of there. If you want to post that, I say we have an off-topic forum. You know, a little corner. Oh, guess what? We do have an off-topic forum. It's already there. It's there for you. Go to the off-topic forum. There's people there who want to see your nonsense. But when I'm talking about, you know, America's Most Haunted, I don't want you to start, you know, rattling off stuff about medieval madness that doesn't pertain to America's Most Haunted. Delete the post. Gone. Just get it out of there. It'll be a better place. There's too much noise. And it's frustrating because it's making me read less of certain threads. And trust me, I'm on Pinside a lot on my computers and on my phone throughout the day. So I'm trying to keep up with what's going on. I'm trying to see what the pulse of things are. I get excited looking at, you know, pictures of, you know, see-through pinball machines being loaded in the back of cars headed towards the Texas Pinball Festival. That's awesome. But some of these threads with some of these off-topic ramblings and some of the, you know, I don't want to say we should police based on morals. I really don't. I'm not really that guy. I'm not the not safe for work guy, really, except when it's off topic. You know, I'm all with the tilt system. I like that just fine. I just don't think I should have to tilt a post. I don't think I should have to refresh and see, you know, photos of whatever. I don't care if it's photos of your cat. If we're in there talking about, you know, Whoa Nelly Big Juicy Melons, get your cat out of the thread. It's dumb. It's turning people off. So I guess I need to put this all in a email to Robin on the chance that he's not listening to this show and voice my opinion. But I would be interested in hearing what your opinions are on that. You know, what do you guys think, friendly listeners of the show? Should we hope that someday Pinside could become an on-topic only forum? If you want to take a thread off topic, get out of the thread. That's what I think. So I'm certainly not trying to play one against the other here, but, you know, in talking about Pinside and some of my issues with some of the way the threads are getting hijacked right now, I think it's a good time to mention a site that I had kind of been waiting to mention and let it, you know, get its feet underneath itself a little bit before I talked about it much on the show. I've been getting to watch it. There's a website that's fairly new, and it's called tiltforums.com. If you go to tiltforums.com, you're going to see a different style message board layout, and it's pretty clean. The site was started by Mr. Greg Dunlap, in Portland, Oregon. And I'll I'll read the welcome to Tilt Forums message from January 4th. Welcome to Tilt Forums. This site was created as a place for people who love pinball to gather and chat in a safe, family-friendly environment. While we're all here as pinball fans, I'd rather think that the real focus of the forum is on people. The Tilt Forum moderators and I want this to be a place where everyone is treated with respect and dignity, and we take this very seriously. Please read our code of conduct. If you have any thoughts, ideas, etc., it's a disclosure-based software. The software that runs forums is called Disclosure, and I think what you're getting at here is probably a move away from some of the not safe for work stuff at Pinside, because most of the people I'm seeing on the Tilt Forum so far are either current or at one time were Pinside users. So I think we're looking, you're looking here at a group that's trying to find something that's very, very pinball related, safe for kids to look at. Possibly they are really aiming to keep this, safe for work. But if you dive into the forums, you're going to see a fairly player competitive centric forums here. I know leading up to Papa, I was really looking at the site a lot because there was some great tournament and game-specific strategy posted on here. Bo and Karen's posts on here quite a bit. I know Josh Sharp is active on here. A lot of the people who you see and post in other Pinside threads or have seen before are on here. So a lot of great people posting some good stuff. I'm not here to say that this is the alternative to Pinside. I think this is just another option for you in finding a place to maybe learn and talk and read about pinball. Granted, this being so far much more aimed at the competitive side, and I think some of you will really enjoy that. So definitely go check out tiltforums.com. I don't want to see what I would hate to see, like a big split in a community where you're either a Pinside guy or a Tilt Forum guy, because I'm going to be both. I'm certainly not on any level saying that I'm going to Tilt Forums, getting away from Pinside. I'm just saying that there is a certain tone to Tilt Forums that kind of drove me to this point with Pinside. I think we saw, or at least I saw, and I don't know if any of you guys caught this, but Bowen, Karen's was in a thread on Pinside talking about, not feeling comfortable on the site anymore because you can't recommend it to friends who might have kids or something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing here. That stuff hasn't really bothered me as much because I guess I'm a little desensitized. I've seen it all. Not so worried about that. I'm actually much more concerned, as I think you've now heard me say, about the just constant derailing of threads that I'm seeing, and the bickering and the kind of, I don't know. There's like, I feel like there's 10 people who are souring the recipe here. But I know better than to think by taking those 10 people out, there aren't 10 more that would probably, do that too. So it'll be interesting, if nothing else, to watch and see if that stuff sort of pops up on Tilt Forums as people get comfortable there. Because I think right now it's sort of the honeymoon period. Everyone's just like, hey, we got a new place to chat and talk. And whereas Pinside, I think everyone feels a little bit more anonymous. It's a really big community, and people just go off the deep end at times. So it's an interesting experiment here to watch something else kind of pop up. So if you're interested, check out tiltforums.com. I guess that's all. I guess that's episode 148. I have mail to read. I have things to talk about. I do want to say this. If you're even sort of thinking about the Texas Pinball Festival as a possibility for you this weekend, stop thinking about it. Just figure a way out to get there. Since we talked to Ed from Texas, Ed Vanderveen, we've had a few more things come to light. I think we know for sure there will be a Wonelli Big Juicy Melons in the Marco booth, and I think we also got the word in the last couple days that there will be an actual Big Lebowski pinball machine on display. So that's pretty awesome. Very excited for that. Very excited to see friends and new friends and all sorts of folks at the Texas Pinball Festival, getting to play different games, getting to compete in tournaments, see the auction, see Multimorphic, see Jersey Jack's The Hobbit, see the Spooky Guys. Saturday night, 9 p.m., Coast2Coast Pinball Live, special guest Mark Ritchie. If you have anything that you think I should talk to Mark Ritchie about, send me an email, post on the Facebook page, whatever you want to do. Let me know. We're going to dedicate most of the show, probably the 45-minute show, will have a little bit of a rundown of what we've seen so far. But we're going to talk to Mark Ritchie about his time designing pinball and his thoughts on what's going on in pinball right now. So that's going to be exciting. I can't wait. I appreciate Mark joining us for that. And until next time, and I don't know if we'll speak again before the Texas Pinball Festival. Maybe. But anyway, until then, keep playing pinball, and thank you for listening. Take care.